Hey all, welcome to the Senior Rehab Project, the podcast for the community of rehab clinicians working to advance care for older adults. I'm your host, Nicole Nexon, and this is the State of the SNF. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the state of geriatric education in PT school. Mixed reviews, we'll see how it goes. Before we jump in today's episode, I want to mention our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by the Academy of Geriatric Physical Therapy. The AGPT works hard to provide us Geri PTs with high-quality content to help us advance our practice. This year's combined sections meeting is a great example of that. The AGPT is offering 3 pre-conference courses in DC before CSM kicks off. This year, you can choose from the fundamentals of Tai Chi, how to apply a comprehensive approach to successful aging, or how to effectively manage kyphosis. That's the one I'm going to. And if I have just scared you off from that, eek! To learn more about these course offerings and how you can sign up, go to geriatricspt.org/SRP. And on to our show.
So I have with me 3 people. One is still in PT school and 2 new grads, one of which is working in a geriatric setting, one who will soon be beginning work in an outpatient setting, and I just want to hear their perspectives on things. So guys, go ahead, introduce yourselves, and whatever you feel like sharing with us, feel free.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Dolan. I am a first-year student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I grew up right next to Madison in Middleton. Went to undergraduate at St. Olaf College in Northfield, Minnesota, where I graduated with an exercise science degree and also played soccer there. For the past 3 years, I've been working in Milwaukee as a personal trainer and then decided to go back to PT school. So here I am.
My name is Chris Atkinson. I just graduated in May from the University of Central Florida in Orlando. And I recently got a job there in the same city at a skilled nursing facility. And tomorrow's the end of my first week.
And I am Ashley. I'm from Wall, New Jersey. I did all 7 years at the University of Scranton, and I just accepted my first outpatient job.
And full discretion, Ashley was actually one of my students. So, yeah. The first thing I want to talk about is, what did you guys experience in the classroom with geriatrics? Lindsay, I know that you're still learning, you're still into it, so tell me a little bit about the classes you've had and classes that you're going to have and working with your advisor.
Yeah, so we just had our first 9-week semesters for the summer, and we did obviously pretty basic stuff. We did all of human anatomy, we did anatomical applications in physical therapy, and then an introduction to the physical therapy profession and professionalism seminar course. And that is a course that my advisor, who is one of the directors within the American Physical Therapy Association Academy of Geriatrics. I am interested in geriatrics, so I had a liking towards her, and I've been talking with her a lot about it because this summer, the first courses we had didn't talk a lot about geriatrics specifically. I mean, we talked about the body in general and used cadavers and everything, so got to see ours. I believe the one that we used was a bit older, so got to see the body actually physically like that. And I know after talking to my advisor about the future courses that we're going to take regarding geriatrics, there's no one specific course. They all talked about maybe having one day, but then they realized that they use more of a cyclical model, and then they use the Academy of Geriatrics Physical Therapy essential competencies in all of their courses. So they kind of go, like in neuro coming up in the fall, they start with peds and then they go towards the older adult. And then in seminars, we hit a lot of the issues, the older adult abuse, housing, Medicare, and all that through the seminars that she is a big part of. So I know that we're going to hit a lot of things. Obviously, I haven't been there yet, so it'll be interesting to see how I change my perspective after I graduate.
Yeah, let me just clarify. So you don't have any geriatric specific classes, but your classes are designed to encompass the whole life cycle?
Yes, and I'm not sure if every course is encompassing the whole life cycle. Dr. Winkner, my advisor, she said just for a specific example, neuro in the fall, they talk about the whole range, and then through the little seminars, we do talk about the issues regarding older adults.
And Chris, how about you? Any classes? What did you learn in the classroom about geriatrics?
4 years ago, we had Dr. Dawson come to UCF and really light the geriatric part of it on fire. He started 2 geri-specific courses that were very useful. The first one involved learning about like the effects of aging on the primary systems of the body, appropriate exercise dosing, appropriate functional assessments of them, and then the second one touched on more holistic topics like talking to the older adult about community integration and pharmacology and how to work with dementia-specific patients, because their plan of cares are going to look a lot different from more cognitively able older adults and stuff like that. So I was pretty satisfied with my geri education.
And Ashley, how about you at Scranton?
So we did have a class. I thought it was awesome for just fundamental skills and knowledge, but it was definitely limited. It's different. Learning about the geriatric population is one thing, but then being able to actually work with them and do everything is a little bit different. So we were working on each other, practicing skills that are like essential for the geriatric population. So I would be practicing like transfers and different techniques for something that on a healthy 25-year-old. So it's definitely different when I was actually in the clinic using those skills. Also, my school utilized all the senior homes around, and we went there for senior size, it's called, and we ran exercise classes there. So that was good with like the interaction because it's different interacting with every population. So I got to know a little bit more skills of how to talk to the geriatrics and then just what they're interested in general.
So do you feel like that initial interaction with the geriatric population through the senior size classes gave you a little more confidence for your clinicals, or did you still really not know what to expect?
Well, each setting was very different. Like each senior home was set up differently. So it kind of started to hint at how much there is a variety in the geriatric population. Like I had one group that would just sit there, no one would talk, and they'd go through their exercises. And then we had another group who actually made senior size t-shirts and told us all the gossip in in the senior home that week. So it definitely showed me that they're not all, like, it's very not specific to the population. Everyone's different.
Any clinical experiences that you had as students? I'd also like to talk about maybe before you went into those clinical experiences, what your classmates' attitudes were to them. Did you have any preconceptions going into those clinicals? And then how did that play out? And how did your other classmates feel about, what else did you hear about other people's experiences also? I mean, you don't, obviously focus more on what you did versus what other people told you, but I would like to hear about things you heard either going into or other experiences like that. Lindsay, I know you have not had a clinical experience yet, but I want to talk about working in the gym a little bit. Mm-hmm. How did you have the confidence to train older adults? Where do you feel like that came from?
To be honest, it was more I gravitated towards them, and I think they really accepted me because I didn't treat them their age, or if I saw their age. I know a lot of people, we get the sheet of paper and it has when they sign up for the gym, they'll write their name and their age and all their information. And a lot of people would roll their eyes and be like, oh, great, an 80-year-old just going to be taken around showing them machines. And I was just like, well, I'll take them. Like, what are you talking about? Like, to me, I wanted so much more than just someone to work out. Obviously, we were there to work out, but I just enjoyed so much of I respected them so much in their story and their past that our first initial contact was an hour, and I used that whole hour, and we almost barely got onto the floor that initial time just because we spent the time talking about where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do. So it was in that time where I would gauge them and read them to see what they were comfortable with. And so the first time we actually get on the floor, I would never want to intimidate them. And I would always just be like, we'll start. Like, I just got a ton of feedback, and I always wanted open communication. So just having them trust me right away, knowing we're going to start really basic and then build our way up once I see how you respond to the exercises. And so when I saw what people could do, I would show them listen, you did that. That was great. Let's move on to something harder, to progress. So I didn't necessarily jump in right away and make them do burpees or anything like that. But wasn't shy if I saw that they could handle it to bring on the weights out and everything. So I think it was the communication.
You're saying that you assessed what each person was capable of and then gave exercises accordingly?
Yes. Crazy. Yeah. And there was so many people that I worked with that, I mean, they wanted to push themselves, but I guess they didn't really know that they could. And then there's people that were super active, like growing up, and then they kind of got older and more aches and pains came on, and they were frustrated by how little they could do. But I kind of had to remind them also, like, we just got to adapt and do something different, you know?
And so I was lucky that I actually got my clinical in a SNF, because there was only one SNF in all of Orlando, like, offering to take students. So I got in, and I hadn't actually spent a lot of time in a SNF before. So everyone was telling me things about how, like, there's just patients just in their wheelchairs, just in the hallways, just sitting there all day long, doing nothing. And then our Jerry professor, she came from a SNF, and she was upset because the clinicians would have their patients do nothing but what she called them the silly seven, the exercises that they do with their legs, you know, the ankle pumps all the way up to the hips, abduction, adduction, no matter their level of function. So I got there, and it was as advertised. It was a lot of people just having the patient just sit in the wheelchair for the whole treatment, 3 sets of 15 on everything. It was pretty much exactly what I expected. So me and my CI, we kind of bumped heads a little bit as I tried to rub off on him as much as he rubbed off on me. I think that's super valuable in student placements. I can't wait to take students myself, honestly.
Oh, I love it.
So I helped him, he helped me, and I mean, I think they're talking about it, because I was talking to my DOR. She was saying, you know, hey, I'm getting a lot of pressure from the higher ups, and I'm wondering if you could maybe do an in-service on exercise dosing for my clinicians. So I did, and I taught them about, you know, proper strengthening, percentage 1 rep max, rate of perceived exertion when it's appropriate, stuff like that. I think it's a lot of just trying to be the change you want to see in the world. You know what I mean? Kind of like Gandhi said.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was good overall. I love the patient population. I love something about taking these patients that are in these rehab centers because of something truly terrible that's happened to them, and getting them to trust me and work with me as I help them on their journey back to recovery. It's really rewarding for me.
So I'm curious, what background did you come from that you were able to feel confident speaking up with your CI? Was he just open to it, or did you kind of have to work on that a little bit?
I had to work on it a little bit. I come from exercise science background. I have my CSCS, so exercise dosage is like my thing. It's my passion, and I love it. And I'm a little bit older. Like, I took some time off after undergrad too, so I was just ready to go in there and butt heads with him, because I knew it was kind of what was best for the patients, and I knew someone was going to have to butt his head eventually, especially with the big changes that are coming next year in the SNF world. So I eased into the confrontation, and then towards the end, plus it was my last clinical, so I had worked with CIs, so.
You kind of knew how to approach the situation anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And do you feel like you may have made a difference in his practice?
In his practice? No.
Yeah. Do you think like he's going to keep a few ideas?
I don't think so. I know I touched a lot of other clinicians. A lot of PTAs came up to me, and they asked me questions about my in-service, and I actually printed out a few charts for them to keep in office about the 1 rep max, how to find it, sets, rest periods, things like that. So hopefully I did some good there.
All right, Aisling, fill me in or remind me on what you thought geriatrics was like before you came into it, and what you saw once you got there.
So I was told that I would spend the 8 weeks of my clinical in the bathroom, either helping patients go to the bathroom or changing diapers, basically. So I was very surprised to find out that I really didn't do anything in the bathroom, really. We did the Hoyer lift in the bathroom one time, but other than that, therapy was mainly out of the bathroom. So that was definitely something I took going into it. I was like, this is going to be an awful 8 weeks of just like, I don't know, dealing with people going to the bathroom all the time. But it turned out that I did so much more than that, obviously. The key thing that I learned is that age is just a number. So I've had patients that are 50 and we're Hoyer lift. We were just working on weight shifting. And then we had patients that are 80 or 90 and we had them on a balance board. So it definitely showed me that the age isn't necessarily something to focus on, which before the clinical, I really thought like definitely working with like the geriatric population coming out of the hospital, like I wasn't going to really be able to do much with them. I wasn't going to be able to use like a lot of the skills that we learned in PT school, but I definitely was proven wrong like within the first day. So
You were hardly in the bathroom at all.
I know.
Had I known, I could have stuck you in the bathroom more often.
Oh, it's okay. I forgive you.
Chris, I think out of you and Ashley, you're the one who ended up in geriatrics. So do you feel like between your clinicals and your schooling, do you feel like you're equipped to handle it? What made you decide to go into geriatrics? Was it just, what about it appealed to you, and did you feel comfortable going into it when you were done?
Yeah, so I started with geriatrics in undergrad because I went to school in a smaller town, Pensacola. I went to the University of West Florida, and they were really good with kind of community outreach. And we actually had a few classes where we would bring in older adults from the community to help resistance train them in one class and then balance train them in the other class. And it was good to just spend time with them, when productivity wasn't a thing, and just learn from them and just get to know how to train them and how to help educate them on the benefits of strength training and balance training and stuff like that. And so that's where my passion really got ignited. And then when I got to UCF, it just kept growing and growing and growing, because almost every setting, I think, can be geriatrics. I mean, you always, no matter where you are, you're always going to see people over 65. And you're always going to have to keep those changes in mind as the body ages, no matter if it's outpatient or hospital or SNF or what have you. And yeah, I felt ready. I felt ready with all my education, with my clinicals, and I think I don't want to brag, but I think that a certain amount of empathy you need to have in that setting to kind of just get down and really understand what they are going through and how you can get them to trust you to buy into what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think, and you'll see that more and more, especially in the SNF. And then, like I said, I'm biased because I'm there too. But the more you can get people to trust you, the better your outcomes are going to be. So hold on to that idea, because really, like, these people are coming from some really crazy, hard experiences.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't even want to move, if like, especially the ones who start like Hoyer level or whatever, like they're in pain. If you can keep that trust and just be open to have those relationships with them, you're going to go far. That's when you're going to get your best results. So hold on to that. Even though sometimes we get a little jaded as you start dealing with, the rugs and the billing and the productivity, it can wear on you, especially when you come in all like starry-eyed and idealists, but try to hold on to that. That's the best advice that I can give you for that. I can't wait to see where you go with things.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Now, Ashley, you ended up in outpatient?
Yes.
And do you feel like your education would make you feel comfortable handling a geriatric patient in the outpatient setting? So knowing you're getting somebody a little more high level, someone who's living at home with or without family, how do you feel that you're prepared for that?
Now I do feel prepared. Like I said before, when we were in the rehab, I was able to do a lot of higher level things with the patients. So before the clinical, I probably would have said that I wouldn't be comfortable working on like higher level balance or anything like that. I probably would have stuck to more basic exercises. but now I'm definitely more comfortable with it. And I actually found that I really do enjoy working with the geriatric population more than I thought I would. I just really like how I feel like the sessions kind of mean more to them a little bit, because sometimes it's like more of a social thing for them, and you may be the only one that really listens to them about their day. So I look forward to having like the mixed variety of patients, that I will have some geriatrics in there as well.
Final question. What would you guys like to see change in geriatric education? Like in PT school, if you could change something about what you learned about geriatrics, or something that you think would help future PT students be more confident in a geriatric setting, what would you say? Lindsay, you want to start?
Yeah. Well, I haven't had any jury-specific courses yet or any of that nature, but and I think I'm pretty unique coming in knowing that I like working with geriatric population. But kind of what Chris and Ashley hit on, it's really hard to teach the qualities that you need to work with that population almost. Like every PT requires empathy and patience to a certain extent, but I feel like it's got to be amplified if you're working with that population. And I think from what I believe of my courses at UW-Madison, we will be trying to change the stereotype of, like, that's, I know at least my advisor is she really wants to change the perspective of like the older adults and breaking the stereotype that older adults are frail, they're boring, like oh, look at her, she's so cute and old, like that kind of stereotype, I guess. So I guess I don't know. I can't really say how I would change my education since I haven't really had it yet. But I think going in with the lens of what I want to do is going to help me help them, I guess. So my feedback to them will really help, I think.
Okay. Chris, what would you like to see different?
So I think there needs to be like a dedicated geriatrics class within the curriculum, because it's such an expansive topic. I think it needs dedicated time and to talk about it. And then something else I liked about what UCF did is the very last thing we did before graduation is we had our choice of certain elective classes we could take, like neuro, sports, prosthetics, things like that we could choose to take one or more if we wanted to. And there wasn't a Jerry one. My professor was like, I'm working on it, but there wasn't one at the time. And I really would have liked to take a class like that after my clinical to kind of debrief in the situation. Because I had a lot of questions and stuff, and I knew I could have went to her specifically on those, but I just didn't want to seem like a bother to her. I would rather have had it in a classroom setting. So that's one thing. And then another thing, I wish I had gotten more talks about kind of the uncomfortable topics, like how to talk to an older adult about proper hydration when they're ashamed that they can't get up and walk to the bathroom on their own. They don't want to bother anybody. Or community integration, because social isolation is a huge problem in that community. Stuff like that. That's what I think I would like to see at least tackled in some way. I don't know how. I don't have the answers. It's just what I want,
Yeah, that's right. You don't have to have the answers. We just, the more ideas. That was the whole point of this. I don't expect you guys to have the answers, but I'd love to know what you're thinking and, see what people would want more out of. Ashley, what are your thoughts? What would you like to have seen differently?
So, I know a geriatric class is important, but I think that it should be more of a focus on reading charts, like less of a focus on age and more of a focus on what's making the patient unique. Because if one of the first things you read in a patient chart is their age, and you start to come up with like a whole list of things that based on their age, like, oh, they probably have like this, and this wrong with them. But instead, I feel like our classes should focus more on like how each individual thing makes them more complex. And that knowing that like geriatrics is very general, just like pediatrics is very general, and it's not the same and it's not textbooks. So I think like going over charts and seeing like old cases and how people played out would be a lot more helpful than knowing like if they're 70 years old, then they may have this issue. I think that'd be more helpful.
So you're thinking more something that looks at like how comorbidities factor into progress and kind of how like that all kind of stacks together?
Yeah, just because like we were talking about before, like nothing in the geriatric population, like it's not the same for each patient. So I think the comorbidities plays a bigger role than just like the age alone or just like even just the setting alone. I think the comorbidities in the chart is the most important part.
And I'm going to tell you guys when I graduated, but when I was in PT school, I remember our director of the program said to us one time, who here thinks they're going to be a geriatric therapist? And like 2 people raised their hand, and she was like, no, all of you, put your hands up. The population is aging. You're all going to work in geriatrics. And here I am. Now, it just kind of stuck with me. And I knew even for the longest time, too, I thought I was like, oh, yeah, I'm totally going to go into outpatient. But I didn't. And then when I did go into outpatient, I found that I still liked the geriatrics. And I found that the other PTs were afraid of them. You know, they were afraid of treating an older adult in that setting. And Chris, what did you call them? The what 7? The basic 7? The silly 7? Yeah. Like I feel like even in outpatient, people were doing that. And I was just like, oh, no. These people can do more. And then, I just kept running with it. And that's how I ended up talking to you guys once a month. Super fun. So does anyone have anything they want to add or any other thoughts that they want to put out there? No? All right.
This wraps up the State of the Sniff. I want to thank Chris, Ashley, and Lindsay for participating and talking to me about their experiences. I know that as a CI and a clinician, it's good to see what students are coming out with, what new therapists are coming out with, and I know that it helps me in my practice. I love getting students, and I love seeing what ideas they bring to the clinic. I want to thank everyone for listening to the Senior Rehab Project. If you've gained through this episode, consider supporting our work. You can become a patron through Patreon, a service that allows people like you to support people like us. You can give as little as $1 a month or become a game changer for $8.99 a month. We'll get an awesome redefined old mug and access to our monthly meetups. Just go to seniorrehabproject.com to learn more and find the notes for this episode. And to quote our friend Dustin, stay funky.